Hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well let's learn English together. And welcome back to the studio, people. Welcome back to this, the second day of the second mega revision. Sorry, I'll say that again properly. Mega revision! Ah, yes, that's better. So, are you all ready? Good. Well then, let's begin. Okay, now, last lesson we looked at what? Do you remember? Well, of course you remember. Last lesson, we looked at comparatives again. Last lesson, we refreshed our knowledge of comparatives. And more importantly, we learned how important it is to complete our sentences when we're using comparatives, didn't we? Okay, so we know how important it is to always tell people what we're comparing something to. Now, there's another part of comparisons that I quickly want us to have a look at. Do you remember the different ways we can make comparisons in English? Yes, one way is to use the comparative form of an adjective, adding ER or R or IER to the base form of short adjectives and putting more in front of longer adjectives. We saw another way too, didn't we? We saw that we can use the as form, can't we? Well, that's what I want us to have another look at today. Do you remember how we used the as form? Well, it's not hard. It's not difficult. In fact, it's the opposite. It's easy. Yes, that's right, boys and girls. This is easy. This is simple. This is comparatives without the comparative form. Okay, I know that you remember, but I want to make sure that we've all got it down, secured in our heads. So, let's have another look at making comparisons with as. Are you up for it? Of course, naturally you're up for it. Okay, well, let's start by looking at the positive form. So, if we're using the positive form, we're not actually talking about things being different, are we? Normally, when we compare things, we concentrate on the differences between them. But when we compare things, we can also concentrate on the similarities we can find, not the differences. Now, when we use the positive form of as, we're actually talking about two or more things being the same, aren't we? We're not talking about the differences between things, but the opposite. We're talking about things that are similar or the same as each other. That's right. When we use as in the positive form, we're actually saying that two or more things are the same. If we take a martial arts giant like Michael Dudikoff, or Jean-Claude Van Damme, or Chuck Norris, or Master Ken, we can say that these guys are as hard as nails. Did you see what I did there? I said that four people were the same as something. So we don't have to only have two things. I can use as to talk about a larger number of things if I want. Okay, so we can see that we can use the positive version of as to say that these martial arts giants are very hard. They're as hard as nails. Maybe they're even as hard as diamonds. Maybe they're even harder. What's harder than a diamond? I have no idea. Okay, so we know that we can use the positive form of as to highlight the similarities between things. Good. Now, what about the negative form of as? Firstly, how do we make the negative form? Do you remember? What's the word we always see when we're talking about negatives? Correcto, mundo lindo. The word we always see is not. And how do we make the negative form of as? Simple. All we have to do is to add not to the front. As becomes not as. Easy. Okay, we know about the form. We know how to make the negative version. We just put not at the front. But when do we use the negative version? When do we use the negative form? Well, that's easy too. We use the negative form to say that things are not the same as something else. We use the negative form to say that things are different, to say the opposite of what we say when we use the positive version. So we can say that modulo and tardi are not as hard as nails, for example. Okay, so we know how to use the positive and the negative forms of as. Great. We also know that when we use the positive form, we're talking about things being the same or similar. And when we use the negative form, we're talking about things being different. Master Ken is hard. He's as hard as nails. Modulo isn't hard. He isn't as hard as nails. Okay. Now, there's one thing that we haven't looked at until now. In all the examples we've seen so far, we've used adjectives, but we can also use adverbs with as, if we want to. Do you all remember what an adverb is? You do, don't you? Well, just to make sure, an adverb is a word we use to give more information about a verb, about how someone does something. If we want to make a sentence using Chuck Norris and dangerous, we can say that Chuck Norris is a dangerous driver. Chuck never pays attention to traffic lights and zebra crossings, and Chuck always drives very fast and not paying attention. Okay, so we understand that Chuck is a dangerous driver. We're using an adjective to describe a noun. Dangerous is the adjective, and driver is the noun. Good. Now, if we want to say the same thing in a slightly different way, then we can use a different combination of English. We can use the verb-adverb combination, like this. Chuck Norris drives dangerously. So, we're making a sentence with a verb, the verb to drive. And because the subject is Chuck Norris, it's the third person singular, he, and we remember that we have to add an S to the third person singular form of the verb to drive. So, drive is the infinitive, and Chuck, he, drives. Now, to give more information, more color about how someone does this thing, how something happens, we use an adverb. Now, do you remember how we make adverbs? Yes, that's right. For most adverbs, we simply add ly to the base adjective. Dangerous becomes dangerously. Quick becomes quickly. Sudden becomes suddenly. If the adjective ends in y, then we replace the y with ily. So easy becomes easily, and angry becomes angrily. Okay, so where were we? Yes. So we can use adverbs with the as form as well. All that we have to remember is that if we're using an adjective, then we're also using nouns. And if we're using an adverb, then we're talking about verbs. Apart from remembering that, we also have to remember one more thing when we're using the as form. Do you remember what we have to remember? That's it. We have to remember that although we're using the as form to compare things, and highlight the similarities or differences between things, we don't use the comparative form of the adjective. We just use the adjective. So, when we're comparing things, we can say that Chuck Norris is harder than Modular, that stupid, pesky, green piglet. And we use the comparative form of the adjective. We don't use the adjective hard, but the comparative form harder. And we also make sure that we provide a complete sentence. We offer a comparative with than so that our brains are satisfied. But if we want to highlight the similarities or differences between Chuck Norris and Modular using the as form, then we have to remember to only use the adjective form. So we say, for example, that Chuck Norris is not as green as Modular, the stupid, pesky green piglet. Did you notice? Because we're using the as form, we use the adjective green, not the comparative form greener. Right then. Good, great, green, grass, grizzly bear. And now, something different. Forget Modular, the stupid, pesky green piglet. Put Tade from your mind and stop thinking about Chuck Norris. Because it's that time again. Yes, you know what time it is.
Stop! Hammer time!
No, it's not hammer time. No. It hasn't been hammer time since what? 1990. No, it's not hammer time. It's time instead for Enid. And here she comes. Hi, Enid. Come on down. What's up, people? Hello. And how are you all today? Are you having fun? Good. I like when people have fun. It's fun to have fun. Now, speaking of fun, I was thinking of the words fun and funny and how sometimes people confuse the two words. So I thought I'd try and help. Now, funny is an adjective. Fun is a noun and an adjective, but funny is only an adjective. Now, this means that if something makes us laugh, then it is funny. Funny is a synonym for amusing or humorous or comic. I find Rick Mayall and Aid Edmondson very funny. When I watch the young ones or Bottom, I laugh and laugh and laugh. Now, that's funny. Something which makes us laugh is funny. Now, what about fun? Well, let's look at fun as a noun first. If we enjoy doing something, then we can say that it is fun. I like water skiing. It's great fun. Snowboarding and surfing are fun. Or we can ask the question, did you have fun at the party? So, if we want to say that something is enjoyable, then we use the word fun. It was a great party. It was really good fun. We had fun this evening at the party. So, if it makes me laugh, it's funny. If I enjoy doing it, it's fun. Okay, I hope that helps. Now, I'm off to have some fun. After that, I might watch a funny film with Rupert, Archibald and Clementina. We like to laugh. Toodaloo, hip hip, gee-bye. All right then, we're done for today. Another lesson bites the dust and we're free to do whatever we like for the rest of the day. Time for a coffee, I reckon. And then, later on, it'll be time for a cocktail. Hooray! Okay, people, that's all we've got for today. So, I'll see you tomorrow. Have fun, enjoy yourselves, and www.m5tv.hu. That's it. Enjoy yourselves, and then enjoy yourselves some more. See you later. Bye!